Okay, we're going to get started. I want to welcome all of you to the webinar today. My name is Judy Brous, and I'm the Executive Director of NAAEE. And these webinars are some of my favorite things that I do because we're so lucky to have such amazing guests. And I'm super excited about our webinar today, which is a little bit different take and perspective on how we think about climate change education and the work that many of us are doing every day in formal and non-formal settings. So we're going to be talking about the serious role of silly in talking and teaching about climate with Esteban Gast. And so excited that he's here with us today. I wonder how many of you who know us ever thought that NAAEE would be hosting a comedian to talk about climate change. We are so excited about today's webinar because we are all trying to figure out how to do this work better. And I will say that climate change is one of NAAEE's strategic priorities. And Carrie is going to put a link in the chat to some of the resources, the surveys, the research, and some of the other things that we've done on climate change education. Feel free to put anything into the chat as we go along about resources that you have or ideas that you have as we're hearing from Esteban. We do know, of course, that climate change is probably the most serious issue of our time facing our global society. So why a comedian? And you will find out soon from Esteban, but we want to offer new ways of thinking how we approach our climate change work. So if you're new to NAA's webinars, we are always trying to bring new ideas and insights, new speakers, new thinking to our field and beyond so that we can do better work and we can think about things differently. And this is part of our EE Inspire partnership with the U.S. Forest Service, our wonderful partners, and a big thank you to Heidi and Melissa and their whole team who do so much on conservation education. And we're just really thankful for that partnership. And also, we're so thankful to all our affiliate co-hosts. We have 52 state, regional, and provincial affiliates across North America. If you're not familiar, please check out the affiliates to find out more about what's happening in your part of the world. And thanks to EPA and EE360 Plus for also helping to make our webinar series possible. As many of you know, because you've been on webinars, that you are all muted because we have so many people, but please feel free to communicate with us through the chat. And if you need closed captioning, please click on the CC and you can see the chat down there. You can see the CC and you can pick from 31 languages if English is not your first language and you need a little help with the captions. And I also want to give a giant thank you to Carrie. Carrie is amazing, and she's on our communications team and helps with all aspects of the webinars, as well as all our social media, analytics, and so much more. She is just terrific. So thank you, Carrie, for all you do. And now I want to introduce our speaker, Esteban. As you'll see shortly, Esteban is a very engaging speaker who is all about climate change. He's a teacher and he's an author. He's a stand-up comedian, and he helped create the climate comedy cohort. Variety magazine calls his work irreverent but aspirational. He's the co-host of the podcast Identify at Play and the host of Comedians Conquering Climate Change. He also hosted a travel series using an electric car. He's co-written a book and the lyrics for a comedy musical, Teacher of the Year. He's won a number of awards, including being chosen as Grist Fixer in 2023. He's been featured on TV and print, and he is currently the comedian in residence at Generation 180, which is a nonprofit working to inspire and equip people to take action on clean energy. And Esteban is going to be working with a couple of special guests. So thank you to Sophie and Brad for being here. And Esteban, thank you so much for being here and sharing your ideas with us about climate change education. Welcome, welcome.
Wow. Thank you. Oh my goodness. There's nothing worse than reading a long bio and I just have to stand here and be like, oh gosh. So thank you. Thanks so much. I'm so excited. Thank you everyone from all over the world. What a hoot. This is amazing. Thanks for being here. I think today will be really, really wonderful. And at any point, feel free to add comments or questions or anything in the chat, and I'll do my best to respond to them, or at the end we can respond to them. Okay? Okay, I'm gonna share my screen, but it's gonna be interactive. So just because I'm sharing my screen doesn't mean we're not in it. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Does everyone see this? It all looks good.
Looks great.
Great, great, great. And let me open up the chat. Okay, perfect. All right. So today we're talking about the serious role of silly in talking and teaching about climate. It's kind of a ambiguous title, so we're going to break it down a little bit, okay? Here's what's going to happen. I want to share strategies today that you can use as an educator. We're going to literally like go through strategies and do strategies and practice strategies so you can walk away and be like, oh, that's a thing I can do. And even if you're in the classroom, if you're outside the classroom, I like lead workshops every now and then, things like that, and lead programs for creatives. So wherever you are, my hope is that the strategies are relevant. And then we're also going to shift a little bit, and this is where we can talk about the philosophy and get really deep with it. Paradigms about how we think about lightness and like whimsy and absurdity and silliness and humor, especially when we talk about deep topics and heavy topics and sometimes very serious topics. Okay, this is important. Sometimes when I share this and I go, oh, there's a role for humor in climate change, people go like, oh, but I'm not that funny. Or they're like, all right, is it time to bust out my climate jokes? And here is the big thing, okay? This is, today we're not gonna talk about how you can be funny. No offense, I'm sure you're hilarious. I'm sure you're amazing. But instead, we're gonna talk about the idea and like strategies and systems to bring in a little silliness and lightness when we talk about teaching. Okay, does that distinction make sense a little bit? If you want to learn to be a comedian, lots of great resources, but today won't be that too much. Cool? Okay, great. And here is, Judy gave a wonderful bio, but here is, I was a former lecturer. I taught at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. See some Midwest people in the chat. And then there with a bunch of wonderful people, wrote this book on creativity. A lot of the activities that we're going to do today is from that book on creativity. And then I was former president of Kalyala in ILL. Heck yeah, Mary. INI. Of Kalyala Institute. It's this off-the-grid study abroad program in Panama. So this is me in Panama, which just fun, just a hoot. Nothing like teaching about nature in nature. Okay, here's also my philosophy of education and teaching. Okay, I believe that learning is practice and feedback. Learning is practice and feedback. So we can like break that down. Okay, so I with Generation 180, this amazing nonprofit, national nonprofit, we've started two programs. So I helped them start two programs. One is called the Climate Comedy Cohort. That is a program that works with comedians to create jokes around the climate crisis in scripts and ideas. And one is called Climate Cultura, and that works with Latin American creatives. So both of those, it's like, okay, the thing I want them to learn, the people in the program, is to come up with jokes, ideas, stories, and scripts. So what does practice and feedback look like? To me, practice is like a safe environment so we can all get together and have like a writer's room and people can fail and nothing happens, so we can practice there. And feedback is peer-to-peer feedback. They can give feedback to each other. We can give feedback from people who are in writers' rooms and making TV shows and things like that. They can give feedback from other people facilitating the program. So we're gonna do a version of that today. Okay, learning is practice and feedback, which means we're gonna practice and then we will lovingly and constructively share feedback. So here's my goal for today. I'm gonna tell you exactly what the goal is. We're gonna talk about how to invite everyone into like learning, and how as educators we can intentionally invite everyone in, how we can use every idea, and how we can combine everything. Use every idea, combining everything. Okay, and here's our first activity. Are you ready? It is totally unrelated to climate change. Here it is, okay, in the chat. This is interactive. In the chat, can you share your worst experience you had in a restaurant that you can like laugh at now? So it's a worst experience you've had in a restaurant that you can laugh at now. So if something is like maybe really, if you're like, I'm still grappling with that. Oh, finding Heather, great one. Also terrifying. Okay, we got in a chicken and it was raw. Roberta, yeah. Red sauce. Oh my gosh, prom dress. Okay, I'm writing some of this down. Spill on dress. Daughter having a fit. Kid puked. Oh my goodness. Oh, stood up. Okay, that's great. These are great. Waiter was. Waiter introduced him as. Oh my goodness. This is so good. There's so much good stuff coming in. Okay. Being given meat as a vegetarian, that's horrible. Went in for an interview and the chef was standing gutting a rabbit. Alexandra's is there's children involved, crying children. Dumped a whole tray of ice cream. Okay, a lot of spills. Let's see. Almost tripped over the table. Okay. Waiter's taking her order. No, this is really great. Found a caterpillar. And then they told us because they use fresh ingredients. Okay. Fell in front of a ranch dressing, spilled down back. Down back? Aaron. That's server dropped the maple syrup. My landlord started dripping. Okay, perfect. So here's what we're gonna do. Okay. There's a lot of spills. So spill on clothes, and there's a lot of falls, it feels like. Falls. So falling down. Or like clumsy. Here's what we're gonna do, okay? Are you ready? Click. The big idea, number one, is like recontextualizing and pulling things that exist here and pulling them elsewhere. So what we are going to do now is in the chat, okay? Actually, Sophie, can we can we have Sophie join? And then in the chat, we're gonna do this as well. Oh, great. Carrie's there, wait for Sophie to join with audio video. Oh, Sophie's here.
I'm here. The notice that I've been promoted to panelist.
Yeah.
You accept
First off,
it.
Sophie, congratulations. Everyone, this is Sophie from Science with Sophie. At the end, Sophie, we'll have like a fun little blurb because your work is so great. Okay, Sophie, here's what everyone put in the chat. Okay, we saw some of that trends I'm seeing that I think are delightful, or like spilling on clothes, which is like sad and funny, and like falling down and being clumsy.
Okay.
So what's going to happen is, first off, balloons are going to go off. And then you and I are going to brainstorm. And if you are watching, I would love for you to, in the chat as well. Sophie and I will be reading the chat. And we're going to brainstorm a legitimately good idea. Okay? This is our prompt now. A legitimately good idea for a restaurant where spilling on clothes and being clumsy is okay. Okay? And actively encouraged. So maybe when I think of spilling on clothes, has anyone been to like Blue Man Group? There's like a splash zone, or like SeaWorld. Like, what if there was like a splash zone? So you know hibachi, but it's like very But it could. So you like the first two rows. The first two rows are VIP, and you have a little poncho, and they're just like I think like a spill zone. Heather gets it. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that will spill is going to be the people, because if it's clumsiness that we're all about, you know that you're going to get a person on you at some point, and that's part of it. That's like the VIP section is like if you're going to just get fallen upon.
Yeah, that's really good. Danielle's saying, "Ooh, car wash cafe."
Car wash cafe.
You walk through. What would a car wash cafe look like? You walk through.
Well, I think so car wash cafe there could be two different versions of car wash cafe. One is like the messy part where you're getting stuff on you.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, I've always wanted to go in through a car wash as a human being. You probably have to, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a dream.
A dream. So you get to do that and just be like completely bounced around, scrubbed to heck, but by the end, you come out and you're so shiny.
Someone wrote, it feels like you can throw like food, right? So let's say you like put fries in your mouth and then you
Mhm.
ketchup and you just go like as you go down.
Yeah, right,
Great.
right. Oh yeah. Okay, so you come out full. You don't come out clean, but you come out full.
This is really good. Food Fight Fridays, eat all you want. Amazing. Amazing. Gallagher, yeah. Guy who smashes watermelons. Okay.
Oh my gosh, these are great. Edible
So
soap. Wait a minute. Edible soap. Esteban. Okay.
edible soap.
Yeah.
That's good. Hillary, write that down.
Hillary,
Just
let's
for
you have an invention on your hands.
Sophie, stay on. I'm gonna go to one more slide, but stay on because we're gonna do another activity, okay? So first off, um, I think a way to get into silliness or levity or whatever we want, the goals, is a way to talk about climate differently or talk about any topic differently is to start over here and then we're gonna go over here, right? So here is recontextualizing. To me, a lot of times it makes the scary thing a little less scary. This is what I've seen from leading this at in high schools and in colleges and in middle schools and elsewhere, right? So it allows us to talk about the thing that is scary, and then it allows us to pull and laugh from that, right? So we started from something. The first one that was shared was, remember, someone was like, there was a cockroach in my food, and I was like, ah, right? And all of us were like, oh no. And then now we have delightful ideas like build a bear, but build a meal. Heather, you had so many incredible ideas.
Heather,
Hillary started
everybody.
a $1 million business with Wash with Edible Soap. Right. So I also think sometimes, and this is maybe when I work with younger people, but also everyone, it's easier to find the bad things than the opportunity, right? If we start like the way to trip people up is be like, what could we do to solve the climate crisis? And people are like, I don't know. But if we take anything, right, we go, what's frustrating about company? What's frustrating about politics? What's frustrating about this? What's frustrating about plastic? Everyone is in that. So that brainstorm is a little bit easier and we get a little more momentum and energy. I also think that we gain comfort with bad ideas. I totally think, and neuroscience agrees on this, that like quality ideas are on the other side of quantity of ideas. So we just have to come up with a bunch of ideas and then eventually we got to good ideas. So part of me is like, how do we get people feeling really comfortable with bad ideas? And they're ideas that like feel like they have no stakes, right? Every idea everyone threw in the chat is delightful. Every bad experience at a restaurant, amazing. We can support that. Every idea for a good restaurant is delightful, right? So accidental check, right? We can throw in names and we're like, yeah, Hillary, what a hoot, the best. So it's a little bit of that mindset shift. So I want to do this specifically with climate. Sophie hasn't seen this, so this is a live brainstorm. So here is 2 activities that sometimes I do with other people. Okay, so one is rant. Okay, and rant like allows people to again get into it. So Sophie, we're gonna start with like 30 seconds. And think emotion, right? Don't think like what's wrong. Like what just frustrates you and what annoys you. Sophie and I both live in Los Angeles for reference, okay? So let's start 30 seconds. I'll keep an eye on time and just like what frustrates you, what annoys you. Yeah, in the chat, Betty, you're already on it. Maybe let's also go along with Sophie, right? Wherever you, yeah.
So I'm ranting now out loud.
Yeah, ready, go.
Thank you for asking me this because gosh, do I love a rant. And you know what I don't love? The fact that nobody walks in this town. We live in LA, the most beautiful weather all the time. Maybe it's roasting right now. Maybe it's 90 degrees. Fine. It's 10 a.m. Don't at me. But most of the time, it is beautiful. There are palm trees. There are trees with flowers. I was just saying the other day, I've never lived in a place with trees with flowers. I come from the East Coast. There's maybe like 2 trees with flowers. And here, every tree has its own flower. Isn't that incredible? You know what you don't see? Trees with flowers if you do not walk. You know what nobody else in LA seems to know about? These trees with flowers because they are in their cars all the time. And as soon as I go for a walk, everybody's like, are you okay? Are you sure? Is something going to happen to you? Are you going to happen to somebody? And I'm like, I'm going, it's literally less than a mile. I can go there, no problem. And they're like, I don't know. I'll drive you. Please do not drive me anywhere. I do.
Okay, love it. Absolutely love it. Right. So if you, and my thought is if you and I had to come up with things we love about Los Angeles, we could, but it would maybe be less emotional, right? It's quick and easy to be, wow, what frustrate, what's annoying, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, and I think like younger people, I taught high school for a little bit. Ah, what a hoot. But then this is the important part. This is where everything is. Now we're gonna flip the script, okay? So Sophie, you talked about no one walks. In the chat, there is oh, pause screen share. Yeah. Okay. So now we see it.
Oh.
Now people see. Okay. So we just did rant, what frustrates you, what annoys you. Okay, things that you said and things that were in the chat. No one walks. Expensive was in the chat.
Mhm. So expensive.
And then like traffic.
Yeah.
Okay. Green lawns, no. Okay, you also talked about, this is really great. You talked about some positive things like trees with flowers and you love nature. So now we're going to, let's pretend to be like the tourism industry, like the tourism arm of Los Angeles, but maybe like a few years in the future when things are like and then what are things that we would be like Los Angeles? Like the first thing that comes to mind is you talked about nature and you talked about weather, things that are free, right? You can experience for free. So Los Angeles is really expensive and also one of the most beautiful things about it. Like I picture like a beautiful tree, and it goes like tree, hugging trees is free or whatever, like hugging trees is not impacted by inflation
Yes.
or something. What would be the flip side of other no one walks is like, right? You could even be like, you can go for peaceful walks.
Right. Yes. Like,
Hmm.
do you need to take your mind off of the impending crisis and doom? Go sniff a flower. Get something different into your senses. Neuroscience tells us that that helps. Redirect your neurons for a second. Is this
Right.
are we wait, if in our couple years in the future, have things gotten worse or have things gotten
I
better?
think hypothetically better.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. What a relief. Thank you for doing all that work to make things get better in the next few
Oh,
years. This is great.
Alexis crushed it. Look at this. Gas is expensive. A peaceful walk is free.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Can
exactly.
you imagine if Los Angeles were like, let's push that?
Oh,
Incredible. Okay,
yes.
we're
I think we should take these ideas to the city of Los Angeles.
yeah.
You have a connect, right?
Yeah, with the city. I'll just do cityoflosangeles@gmail.com and
I
then
think
we'll see what
that's
happens.
perfect. And I'll do Yahoo and we'll cover our bases.
Okay, one really last thing. Are you ready? So really quickly, let's do appreciations because it's also good. Now just 15 seconds, Sophie. Think of like a favorite book or movie. What do you love about that? You can tell me the name of it, but mostly like what do you like about it?
Okay.
Good book or
Well,
movie.
I guess related to this topic, I've lately been watching a lot of Star Trek, which is neither a book nor a movie, but it is a TV series. And one of the things I really love about it is that it really is so optimistic about solving problems. And everybody believes in each other and listens to each other, and they're a team all the time. And it really makes me feel like we're going to figure it out as people, because in this series, we already have.
Yeah, I love it. I know, Sophie, you make YouTube videos and you have web series and a bunch of other things. And to me, like the thing that you love about a movie or TV show over here can also, right, we can recontextualize that and bring it to, let's say, YouTube or social media, place that and be like, okay, great, optimistic, like a sense of belief, listening, like all of those, I think you actually do very well. But all of those to me are lessons that you can pull from elsewhere, right? So we can, I think here, what I hope people do is we can get someone excited about a thing, right? So they go, my soon-to-be brother-in-law is 17 and sometimes it's hard to relate to him. And then he like tells me about legit like anime stuff that he's watching and all these amazing anime directors and this mythology, and I think from there, and then sometimes he feels stuck on what he wants to do in his life. And I think the step one is being like, what is something in anime? But the step two is being like, oh, you're telling me that you like things that have like a history and you like things that are international and you like things where people work together, or you really respect this, right? So we're grabbing all these things from elsewhere and bringing them here. So to me as an educator, it's really exciting if we get someone to rant about something and then we pull all the lessons. It's really fun if we get someone to nerd out or teach someone about something and then we pull those lessons to something totally unrelated. Sophie, do you want to tell us, like 30 seconds, what you do? Because it's very relevant, and I do think it has a sense of optimism and belief and listening, and then we'll go to the next activity.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. So I run a science comedy TV series called Science with Sophie. We started on YouTube. We exist on Kadoodle TV as well, which is a kid-safe streamer. If you know a kid and you want free content like SpongeBob and stuff, check out Kadoodle TV. They don't pay me to say that, but it's a science comedy series for girls and everyone. So involving everybody in the joy of solving serious problems and thinking like a scientist every day. And my latest project is that I just drove an electric car from Los Angeles to Boston and back and filmed the whole thing. And we're editing together a documentary series about it. So if you want to follow along, I can put, oh, the link's in the chat. How nice. Thanks.
Wow,
Yeah,
so good. Thank you, Sophie.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right, we're going back. We got to keep moving and grooving. This is too much fun. It's too much fun. Great. So this act, thank you so much, Sophie. Incredible, incredible. Oh no, here we go. Okay. So this idea, right, of recontextualizing, I think is really, really big. Here's a few things that when I talk to educators sometimes, that they fear is that, right, like talking about climate feels really scary, feels really big. I think we can do that. I think we don't need to be afraid to ask someone what frustrates them or what annoys them, especially if we've built that muscle of flipping the script. So what I would do is do really silly prompts, like worst restaurant to best restaurant, and we could do that with any item, any idea, anything. So we're building that muscle of going like, okay, we know that we're gonna make this list and the list is gonna be kind of negative, but there's a little bit of like goofiness or silliness in that. And then we know we're gonna switch that over. Okay, the next idea I wanna share is called juxtaposition. So when I was teaching creativity, I taught it to engineers. This is at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, and it was all engineers. And engineers are delightful. My father's an engineer, and they also were like, what are you talking about creativity? Don't tell me go for a walk and think about, don't tell me journal. They like wanted systems. So we brought in this neuroscientist from the University of Illinois, and she talked about how a creative idea often means that you just don't go down the same neural pathway. So she shared a bunch of really interesting science, and part of it is this idea of designing cars. Engineers love this one, so I remember this one specifically. She goes, if you ask someone to design a new car, like people think about the cars that they've seen. So literally picture like your neural pathway, and you're like, okay, car, car commercial, car I owned, car commercial, cars I see on street. Right, so they would be somewhat limited. She even talked about that it was so limited, like all of us collectively, at least if you live in North America, or it's like all of us see so many car commercials or car images that we would see red. People would design a car that was red. Does that make sense? So they would, if you were like unprompted, hey Esteban, design a new car or share a car image that you have in your head, it would most likely be red. I just think that's fascinating of like the group think. So she was like, the best thing you can do for creativity, and I'm not saying this comes up with like great ideas, but it comes up with creative ideas. Creative meaning like an idea that maybe we haven't thought about before, is to introduce something to make that neural pathway, that thought go totally sideways, right? These provocations, these invocations, there's lots of different ways to think about that. So what we did, and she was there to help us shepherd this process a little bit, is be like, hey, design a new car, but it has to be totally inspired by nature. Or we'd be like, design a new car, and it has to be inspired by this tree. Right? So we'd have a little biomimicry, we'd have a little bit of that, and then people came up with brilliant ideas like, oh, what if the tires on the car had like seeds in them, and whatever, and it's like, because nature has no waste, so when leaves fall, whatever it is, like that. So we're asking them for something completely different. And to me, I've taken this idea, this one chat with this neuroscientist, and expanded it to this idea of juxtaposition. Okay. So for me, this means that these like random words, like what it shows is we take two words, especially when we're brainstorming thinking about something, and then we smush them together and we come up with something. Okay. We're actually going to do this right now. If we could have Brad Einstein join the chat. DF, so creatively reframing, they'd say faster horses. Oh, Brad, can we give Brad video and audio privileges? That'd be so great. Yeah, I would say creative reframing. Yeah, that's actually, that's a good question of what is the difference between sort of recontextualizing and juxtaposition. And I think recontextualizing is like intentionally digging into a topic and then shifting to a different topic. Let me use a visual, right? So I would say creative reframing is like we go down here, okay, and then we connect it to over here, okay? This way, this way. Does that make sense? And I think juxtaposition, we start and we try to, oh gosh, oh no. Oh dear, another pen? Oh dear, wait. We can see it. And then we we go down and then there's a break and then we go in different directions. So one is we go all the way down and then does that make sense? I don't know that. All right. Brad and I will demonstrate. Brad, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Esteban.
So happy you're here. Brad also doesn't know what we're doing, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this live, Brad.
Heck yeah.
Brad's amazing. Brad is an incredible comedian and communicator. And I found Brad's work. Brad, this is one of the coolest things. You were like an artist in residence at a national park, and you were using comedy and puppets and silliness to like communicate ideas, right?
Yes, absolutely. And actually started with the National Forest System out in Fish Lake National Forest with the Pando Clone Forest. My directing partner and I noticed that it didn't have any educational signage. We reached out to the folks at the National Forest Service, and they were open to shooting like a fundraising video and kind of informational documentary that ended up through some public donations, and then through work within the Forest Service itself, getting a really amazing organism, the largest organism on Earth, first ever educational signage. So shout out to the folks at the Forest Service on this call today.
Amazing. So good. Okay, Brad, here's what I'm thinking. And everyone, I know we have to trust the process. This may be messy, but I encourage everyone in the chat to also jump on, okay? So I'm gonna go back to sharing screen. And this is what we're gonna do, Brad. We're gonna go to a random word generator. And
Great.
Intentionally, I did not tell Brad anything we're gonna do. And then what we're gonna do, Brad, is we're gonna come up with more ideas to talk about. Let's say like the national park system. In the United States, there's people from all over the world. It's really beautiful. It's protected parks. There's some education components. It's just protecting nature. So we are going to, let's do 5 words, generate random words, and we're just going to see what comes up with it, right? Again, hypothetically, the thought is, if we're, one way of doing this is saying, hey, everyone, let's think about ways to talk about the national parks. Let's think about ways to protect the national parks. Let's think about videos or stories we could say about the national parks. And then hypothetically, my neuroscientist friend from the University of Illinois, she would argue we all would think similar-ish thoughts. So we're gonna intentionally mess with that. So it might not make sense at all, but let's see. Okay, recognize, record, embarrassment is interesting. Precedent, expand. Brad, if we're just thinking ways to communicate or share or learn or anything, right? Vaguely national parks. What is anything come to mind? To me, embarrassment is, and join in the chat as well. If you are, wait, where's the chat button? To me, embarrassment is interesting.
Yes.
There's something interesting of being like, you're so humbled by nature, you're like embarrassed. about your own, like in a beautiful way, of your own insignificance? Is that too
Yeah,
deep?
I really love I really love that. To me, also recognize is so impactful for me because I feel like so much of the job, especially with ecological literacy, is to make people recognize all of the bits of like the biome that we call home that fade into the background and kind of give foreground attention to that, which is in the background. Um, Absolutely, embarrassment is
It
fun.
recognize is also interesting to be like, you know, those beautiful things you see on screen, they're in real life. You know, Avatar, and you're like, wow, this magical world where nature is alive. It's almost like seeing a celebrity, like
Yeah.
Sequoias are celebrities, and you go, oh my gosh, I remember. Do I remember seeing you from Fern Gully? So recognize is also an interesting thought, huh?
Yes. I also think embarrassment can be helpful in certain ways, especially if we're thinking of the National Park Service. Frequently, Yellowstone has to utilize embarrassment in certain ways to keep people away from the buffaloes, which is sometimes like you don't want to shame the people that you're working with, but providing certain guardrails. Embarrassment is reminding me of a part of that Pando project. A guy named Scott carved his name huge into a tree, and we ended up just doing a roast of Scott because he was a very rude gentleman who wrote
Yeah.
his name on numerous trees. And so Scott kind of became like a little bit of a mascot of what not to do. It wasn't a goal to embarrass everyone on Earth, but like an anonymous Scott from time to time isn't necessarily
Yeah.
the worst situation.
That's so good. Brad, do you have the chat open? The chat's
Yes, yes, yes.
some good stuff. I'm trying. Um, embarrassed to Carly said embarrassed to have never been here before, even though I live so nearby. That's really interesting. I also picture like I live in Los Angeles, and like you could zoom out a drone and then like right, I go like, oh, this city is all concrete, and you like zoom out and then you see that only 20 miles away there's the Los Angeles National Forest, you know, or whatever. There's something
It's
interesting there of being like,
ab-
it's so close.
It's absolutely so close. I know
Uh,
you said this earlier, but DF did say something like getting past embarrassment to allow fuller brainstorms. Esteban already said it. To all of these people, the fear of looking stupid or being stupid and pushing past that embarrassment is so critical to more engaging, more novel, and more dynamic communication. So, yeah, just throwing that out there again, it can't be said enough.
okay, does someone I'm trying to think. People are from different, from all walks of life, um, and I'm trying to think. Let's do another one with a different prompt, like maybe music. Do you have something specific, Brad, that you want to think about?
No, no, no. I had a thought on another word, but I think you're moving on and kind of blowing this out a little bit, and I didn't want to get in your way.
No, no, no. Okay, let's do. Does anyone want to write some like an organization that they work for or a cause, like as specific as they can in the chat, and we'll just do a random word generator on that. We'll just do the first one that we see. Is that all right? Marisol, you just wrote. If you're near the keyboard still, a group of pandas is an embarrassment. Michelle, that's so good. I'd love to be a witness to that embarrassment on the daily. Okay, Elizabeth, can you be? Ooh, tree people. Aquarium. Oh, what if we do tree planting?
Great.
Tree planting? Is that okay? That feels, there's some stuff I just don't know too much about, so I'm a little bit hesitant. Keeping it up was beautiful. Ah, first off, incredible that all of you are working on this. Okay, let's do tree planting, right? We're talking about tree planting. Again, it can be messaging, it can be actual ideas. Let's just do 4 random words. And remember, part of the goal of this is not that Brad and I come up with brilliant ideas, but it's that we're like, I mean, hopefully there's some good ideas, and there were some genuinely good ideas in the chat, but it's that we're like working this muscle, and that we're okay to laugh at ideas, we're okay to like take that time, brainstorm, and instead of maybe that pressure or that weight of like we have to convince people to tree plant because it's like one of the best things we can do, we're taking like the scenic route intellectually there. Okay, let's do it. Rack, falsify, portion, mountain.
Great.
So we're talking tree planting. Brad and everyone, if we try to throw it in the chat.
Falsify, communicating, trying to plant a tree in a bad place. That cognitive dissonance, saying a tree getting planted in a place where clearly a tree is not supposed to go. Why are you trying to plant a tree horizontally on a wall? That entry point makes you go, wait, yeah, that's obviously wrong. What is the right way to plant a tree? What do trees
Wow.
need to grow correctly?
Brad, that's such a good idea of someone trying to plant a tree on a wall and then they're like, hey, like, look, like we love the intention, but come with us. I think they're from Tree People. Come with us. We'll show you how to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Wow, I love Christina just wrote. There's so much good stuff in the chat. Sorry, I'm not totally keeping up.
Yes, horizontal tree grafting, Elizabeth, great, great comeback. That is a legit thing. That said, I feel like a lot of I don't know, a lot of like tree planting organizations are like, we need to graft more stone fruits onto this plum tree, but excellent. Good. You got me. I done got caught.
I love like you can't falsify trees. How much like portion is good? I love of like it'd be like what percentage, what portion of your life should have trees in it? And then, you know, and you see a chart or you see green space or you see like whatever that is. Ooh, portioning trees correctly. Oh, that's yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a weird thing, but I think I don't know. Sometimes the way you juxtapose certain things together, like falsify, portion, and mountain, is automatically making me think weirdly of Himalayan blackberries. You eat them a lot. That's not necessarily planting trees, but in terms of communication processes, like, oh hey, how do you speak about something that is invasive but also like really tasty and people like being able to gauge invasives that are like falsely in an ecosystem, and how you deal with kind of that spectrum and engage with people when you're like, this thing like kudzu sucks. Himalayan blackberries in the Pacific Northwest sucks, but is really tasty. And then here are all the native things that don't look as flashy, but are vital to the ecosystem. Kind of off message, but maybe that makes you think of something else within
Sure.
space.
That's great. I love it. Imagine a mountain without any trees. I love Roberta. What portion of your heart is taken up by these mountains? I mean, beautiful, just poetry.
Love that.
If you falsify for it, so good to falsify your word. This is the idea, Brett, still stay on for a little bit. This is the idea of juxtaposition. You know, I think the biggest thing that happens when I introduce juxtaposition, or when we talk about this, and if it's with wonderful creatives like Brad, or if it's with people who are just thinking about this for the first time, is all of a sudden you feel confident that anything can be a source of inspiration, right? All of a sudden you're going and you're like, it's this paradigm shift where you see the possibilities of all these different things, right? You also, it's like an understanding, an awareness of what is like popular, of feeling the thrill of coming up with like a new idea, even if it doesn't necessarily mean it's like a good or an effective idea, but you're just helping people. I mean, to me, right, it's like you're helping people grow in like and get excited about being curious. As I think creativity is just combining. We're gonna do one last juxtaposition exercise. 15 minutes left. Oh, okay, it'll be really quick. I'm gonna scroll up to let's see. Mary talked about aquariums. Brad, we're gonna do as fast as possible, and here's the prompt. This is a slipper I'm wearing, okay? So in the chat as well, we're gonna have 1 minute just to be like, again, it doesn't, but something around Mary works in an aquarium, is trying to get people to connect with aquarium, trying to get people to feel excited about aquariums, and there's a slipper. What do we do? What do we do now?
To me, slipper feels like comfort. to me, slipper feels like, oh, this, we're gonna make you comfy in an environment that maybe doesn't want to make your feet comfy. This feels like an entry point maybe to talk about blubber. At least for me, to be like, oh, hey, you know, this feeling of support and comfort and softness.
Yeah.
That seal's wearing its own slipper all the gosh darn time or something. That's
Yeah.
my first thought.
I love that. People are doing slippers and flippers. Alicia,
That's
incredible.
great.
Slippers and flippers. Bring your slippers and PJs. Absolutely. Come get comfy with local organization. Slip into another world.
Yeah.
When the shoe fit, yeah, something when the shoe fits, like right, there's a perfect slipper. Like this is the thing you've been waiting for. This is perfect for you.
Yeah. I think that is so great that like slipper just served so many purposes. Like what I spoke it, slipper was like a simile or a
Yes.
metaphor for blubber, using slipper as a jumping off point for idioms. Idioms has their own concept. If like slippers and flippers, just like what is a tag, what is like a rhymey tag that kind of creates a concept line. Like that's really exciting to me, seeing how slipper both linguistically and conceptually can go into so many different directions, and all of them are pretty legitimate.
Yeah, it's so good. I also like Rochelle wrote slippers are soft and quiet. That's in it, right? They're not click clacky. They're what it looks like to approach, you know, even with maybe kids, you're like, oh, like we have slippers on our feet or what or whatever. It's like the we walk like this around nature. Or I love Hillary wrote separating yourself from the earth. It's true. You know what? Take that slipper off. Connect.
Yeah,
Amazing. Right. We've gotta move on.
absolutely.
If people want to know more or anything, Brad Einstein, you wrote there's a where can we tracks from the bottom of the ocean? Gosh, it's so good. Oh, you're coming.
Sorry, Esteban, was that a question or
Oh
should
yeah,
I?
where can people find out more?
Great.
Sorry,
You can find me at Brad Einstein on Instagram or waytogoeinstein.com. You can see a bunch of my work. Forest Service folks and anybody, come say hi. Would love to learn more about all your work. Science communication is the absolute best, and ecological literacy is so important. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brad. Okay, this has been so fun. We're just gonna walk through this quickly. The last idea is intentionally invite everyone by intentionally thinking of everyone. This is a technique I really like. It's called the lotus blossom. I explained a little bit of the neuroscience. We don't need to more, but basically, a lot of times the way that I do this is just a visual thing, and I ask people I'm working with to do the same, right? So we did this with comedians, with creatives, with all sorts of other folks, and it's just like a visual system to be like, okay, you know, when we were coming up with programs, I really like comedy. I'm a comedian. My path is sort of education and then entertainment. And I was like, okay, there's different types of comedy, right? There's stand-up comedy, there's TV and film, there's social media people, and then in TV and film, there's parody, there's and you sort of go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then from there, we can find really wonderful ideas and really funny ideas. Again, like I think the limitations of that help a lot. So it's a little bit of this pattern, right? Topic, option A, B, C. And then you grab one of them and you do a deeper dive. I just want to share this quickly because I promised a bunch of strategies. I think this is a strategy that is like both systematic and again can be approached with like silliness or whimsy, because we like what I would do is be like, we have to come up with a third idea here, and we have to go deeper and let's figure it out. And there's no, it's learning is practice and feedback. So there's no, this is practice. The ideas don't have to be immediately applicable. The ideas can just be wonderful, silly ideas, and we're there, and that's it. So those are things that that I just wanted to share. So recontextualizing, juxtaposition, and lotus blossom. And I think the biggest thing is like shifting some of those paradigms about how we use lightness for heavy topics. Again, at no point were we like, hey, you've got to come up with funny ideas. But I think what we can do is create these systems and activities that allow us organically to arrive to a place where we're coming up with really fun ideas like slippers and flippers and like car wash cafe, right? Like those two shared would get a chuckle, would get a recognition, would get like, ha, how delightful. And I think that's the thing that I would encourage you to do. That's like the big idea to share, is how do we create systems? How do we create like activities and work and techniques to arrive to a place where we can just think differently about the way that we usually talk about climate. And I don't think you need any like background in improv or anything. I think it just is as simple as like using legitimately like a random word generator every now and then and be like, okay, let's do our best. Let's do this. I think if we feel comfort sharing bad ideas and recontextualizing, if we feel comfort sitting here and be like, I don't know necessarily what to do with this, if we feel comfort sitting in that and we practice that, we get feedback of like, oh, this could be this, this could be this. We like have conversations around it the way that even Brad was like, oh, this could be literally slipper or a metaphor slipper or a simile, or like we could pull some of that, pull some of the learnings from there. I think the more we do that, the more fun we have in that, and the more that we can talk about an issue that needs all hands on deck and all approaches. So that is, that's a little bit of what I wanted to share. Thanks for, I know it was a little bit quick and it was pretty activity focused, so I hope you had fun. There were so many brilliant ideas in the chat that I genuinely hope that you keep thinking about it. But I would love, if there's questions, I've got some questions that people submitted earlier that I'm happy to speak to, but I would love, if anyone's got questions, yeah, we've got a few minutes.
Esteban, that was fantastic. So much energy, so much creativity. One question is, and this is something that I know you've talked about before, kids and adults are worried about climate. They're anxious about climate. What's an example of using some of these techniques specifically around kind of the scared of climate, climate anxiety? What would you do first? As
Yeah, Judy, that's a great question. I think there's two answers. One is a like philosophical answer, and that is to be okay with talking about it and sharing about, like, I think it is totally okay to spend a time writing down, like we did, the things we're worried about, writing down the things we fear, writing down the things we feel hopeless about, right? Like, I think that's totally okay. And then from there, we can pull maybe solutions, or we can be like, from this list, what can we control? What I would do, if I were working, Fiona, I see the question. What I would do is I would find a similar activity where you list things that we're nervous about and then pull action steps from that is lower stakes. Does that make sense? So I'd find a lower stakes activity to practice and then get to climate anxiety.
Yep.
That to me is learning, is practice, and feedback. Is I would, with 10-year-olds, be like, oh my gosh, what are, whatever. What are some slightly lower stakes, like things we're afraid of? Oh yeah, oh, that is scary. Awesome. And what can we do, and we do that, they're familiar with that, and we go, okay, now we're gonna take it up a little bit. What are some things you feel?
That's great, Esteban, including what you did with the restaurant. Nothing to do with climate, just giving an example to get people thinking.
Yes, totally. So I would do exactly the thing that you want them to do, the thing that you hope for them to do, that you hope for them to teach. Yeah, what's an iteration? What's version 1, version 2, and then version 3 maybe is the heavier one. I hope that helps.
That was good. Do you want to take one last question from the ones that came in earlier? We did get a lot of good questions. Let me just see if there's anything else in the chat.
If anyone's got a question in the chat as we look, how do you encourage concrete thinkers to look at abstract concepts? I mean, hopefully that was answered a little bit. A lot of climate anxiety. Someone had a question about how to talk about climate change when your state government doesn't officially recognize it, knowing that there's a lot of places that in the US are doing that. I think, I'm surely not the best person to answer this, but I'll give you an answer. But what I would think about is the gift of climate is that it intersects everything.
Yeah.
Right? The gift. So I would say, hey, yeah, some of the things we came up with today. Hey, let's, what are the celebrity trees that we all know and love? Something that is like funny and can be tongue in cheek. And then, yeah, I think you can talk about climate without talking about climate. And I think you can do it in a way, if a state government is very vigilant in being like, no activism, like whatever their fears are, which first off, I'm so sorry that you're teaching in that environment. But my thought is, like, it would be so silly if they came to you and they said, hey, were you talking about how cool trees are and comparing them to superheroes or whatever is a thing, right? Like, part of me is like, that feels very different than,
Yeah.
so I think there's a way to do it. And I actually think, and this is totally my point of view, totally biased, but I actually think humor and silliness could be a way in to talk about it in a way that a hyper vigilant, unfair government entity might not even, might be like, okay, they are just doing these silly they're just thinking about it in this way. They're using this these metaphors.
So Esteban, we need you and Brad and Sophie at all our political meetings as we're advocating for climate change. That was absolutely fantastic. I just want to thank everyone for being here. Sophie and Brad, it's great to have you on board, and you both offer so much, but Esteban, your energy, it was so wonderful. And I saw there was one last question, and maybe we can answer it in the chat, about the global north and the global south and the issues there, but we can do that in the chat. I'm going to turn it over to Carrie, who's going to close us out, but thank you so, so much.
Thank you. This was and thank you everyone in the chat. Truly, this would have not been anything if the chat weren't so brilliant and so many people were interacting. So thank you. Okay, I'll go on mute. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic, Esteban. This was just an incredible conversation, and everyone chiming into the chat. So much fun. Don't worry, you will get the recording, you'll get the chat transcript, and you'll get the slides that Esteban shared, because obviously this is something that so much content went through, and I think we were all laughing and typing and just enjoying ourselves. So again, thanks so much, Esteban, and you'll receive all of these things in your inbox here in the next few days. A couple of upcoming items. Right now, we're still taking applications for our Global eSTEM Awards. So this is something that we offer to nonprofits around the world. It's an opportunity to earn up to $50K in funding for organizations that are working to build environmental literacy and build opportunities for environmental careers for folks ages 11 to 22. So if this interests you, please check it out. We're accepting applications for another week or so, and we're so excited about it. We also have coming up our Natural Start Conference, which is our early childhood, nature-based early learning conference that is accepting registrations here. It's taking place in Portland, Oregon, as well as in the online environment. So please check that out if it seems like something that you'd be interested in attending. It's filled with educators from around the world. We also have, as somebody actually asked, our registration for the NAAE Conference and Research Symposium will be opening so soon. Keep an eye on the website, conference.naawe.org. Sign up for our newsletters, keep an eye on our social media. We will shout it from the rooftops as soon as it opens, which we're hoping will be very, very soon. And we'd love to hear from you on what you want to learn in these eeWebinars. Today was a phenomenal experience, and I think it really changed how we're talking about what environmental education and climate education can look like. Please scan the QR code and visit us on eePro to tell us about what it is you would like to learn about and talk about in future webinars. There will be a survey in your email that you receive with the recording as well. So let us know what you thought. Let us know how you felt about today's webinar and what you'd like to see in the future. And lastly, again, thanks everyone for joining us. This was just so wonderful. Sophie, Brad, so glad you could make it. And Esteban, this was a phenomenal webinar to be part of. And I think we all really enjoyed ourselves and came away with a lot of tools to help us further these difficult conversations in a way that actually feels pretty good. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Esteban. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Sophie. Thanks, Carrie. And as we're signing off, Mary did have one more question in there as I'm looking. Just put it up there.
Yeah. Public informal position for means viewed as STEM, even with the same. Any tips and tricks on how to keep silliness while showcasing credibility? Mary, that's such a great question. Do you know what I feel that sometimes, as you can imagine, we just hung out for an hour. Sometimes people are like, this guy, they're like, who's he? Or they're like, you know, they think that credibility has to be serious, or it looks a certain way, right? It has to be, oh, I have to walk around with, I think my response and thought to that would be in some ways of like, I'm like, at this point, I feel pretty good that I can come up or help people come up with really good ideas. So it's almost like, okay, let me overwhelm you, for the lack of a better word, overwhelm you with good ideas. That's fine. You can underestimate, but let me do that. So I wonder if you're actually facing this sort of political situation or anything like that at work, like, I wonder if you can showcase, like, part of me would be like, if there's an area that you can, and be like, look at, we're coming up with whatever, 100 ideas for how to do that. Like I wonder if there can be a public thing that people can walk by without having too much context to be like, wait a minute, you are coming up with whatever that looks like, right? 25 ideas a week. You're doing these things. When people come and work with you, they're learning this. I don't know if that, I need to know a bit more of the specifics, but that's maybe how I'd think about it. Yeah, I think that's a little bit, I mean, I taught in college, at the college level right after graduating master's, and I was very young, and it was engineers, and I have no background in engineering. So I think that's maybe what I'm relating to. And I think after a while, even the engineers were like, okay, that's pretty cool. Or this idea, these strategies did get me there.
Yeah.
And I think I literally was intentional about putting it up, which feels silly because it's a university and that's like a elementary school tactic. But part of me is like, no, we're going to show our work. I'm going to show the work that we did, and we're going to do that. So when someone walks in, they go, wait a minute. And they're looking at the thing, right? They go, and I'm going to do that a bunch of classes. So you're going to walk in every class, and you're going to know the class I taught before. And I'm a young guy who had a sociology degree, not an engineer. We're gonna be coming up with those ideas. That's a little bit of how I thought. So that's, I guess, I'm just sharing my personal experience, and maybe some stuff there is relevant.
Thank you so much, Esteban, and Brad and Sophie. Really great to meet all of you. And Carrie, thank you. Have a great rest of the day. We'll be in touch. And that was fantastic.